Hey, welcome Wednesday to you all out on the Central Coast. Minutes after 6 bells. We meet here each and every week from 6 to 7 to do just that, live the run. Rex Stevens in studio with the Olympian Paul Tarek, Paul Walter, Melissa Gergel. Good stuff. I think you can feel the energy change, Paul. I don't know if you can. Being slow a little bit, and it's starting to come on. Those Cal Poly Mustang students are returning. And they are returning with a fury.
Yeah, I moved down to Grover, and it's like I do miss that college atmosphere. When I lived here, it was like, the college atmosphere. And now that I've moved away, I do miss the youthful college atmosphere.
Well, let's turn it over to Melissa for a second. Look, I've been out there on the track during the summer. It's been fantastic. Been on the campus. Kind of almost like our own facility. Can you already sense the energy changing here at San Luis Obispo?
Well, after I sat in traffic for 20 minutes on the way to practice the other day, I could definitely sense the change in the air. Last year, I moved down here in late September, early October, and so I totally missed this. This is my first week of welcome, and
she's even got the terminology down, Paul. Week of welcome.
Wow week.
Wow week. There's definitely, I know they're doing it a little bit different than they had in the past. They're trying to improve that whole thing. My question is how much are they really living the run? I mean, is there some fitness things oriented here? There used to be that hike of the pea. I'm wondering what they're doing on the nutrition spectrum. I'm afraid a few too many Monster drinks, some Red Bulls, and maybe a few other beverages that don't match up to what we do here on Living the Run.
I can't imagine, I don't know if it's scheduled in their activity time, but when you go through campus, you see herds of kids. I mean, there's like literal herds of kids that are walking, I'm assuming they're coming from the dorms. You see them sometimes downtown, so they have to be getting some sort of foot traffic in.
Hey, exciting show tonight. I want to let the listeners know if you're listening right now, stay with us. In about 10 minutes, one of the best interviews we've ever had on Living the Run we had last year. Dr. Brandon Brock, one of the leading authorities on concussions here in the country, doing some tremendous work out of Dallas, Texas, as well as he does a lot of work in Atlanta, Georgia, there in a facility. This guy is compelling, and one of the things we're going to touch on a little bit tonight, I know it's in the news all the time. Football season started. It seems to be the talk around town. NHL is starting to go, their preseason as well. Concussions go there. What is less talked about but needs to be, and Dr. Brock will add some compelling things for us, is the soccer season. We get a lot of these kids heading soccer balls, and what people aren't realizing is that there are low-grade, mild-type concussive events happening on some of these kids, or what they use is more inflammatory things happening on repetitive heading of these soccer balls for your 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds. This is big, big news for us, and he's going to kind of bring us up to speed on what we need to be looking for. And, again, looking to prevent, as always, one of the things that we talk about a lot on this show.
Well, one of the things you just talked about is overtime, the injuries over time. I think a lot of people think head injury and they think of an immediate impact, or they think of some sort of fantastic collision that's going to cause this. There was just recently in the news in the last couple of days, a high school football player, big hit, walks off the field under his own power, then in the hospital for a few days and ends up dying from this, and it's kind of what caused it, what are they going to look at, and is this something they're going to start looking at all over the nation, maybe in high school kids?
Yeah, how do we evaluate brain inflammation? It's not just falling off of missing the pole vault pit, maybe, sometimes.
Try not to think about that.
It becomes one of those mental things you don't want to visualize. Anyway, Brandon Brock up here in about 10 minutes. Again, one of our most favorite interviews. Next week on the show, another great interview. This guy talks all over the world, too, out of Canada. His name's Dr. James Chestnut. This guy's going to talk on genes. And, this is one of the topics that I've wanted to bring onto the show for a long time.
Tight jeans, loose jeans.
Yeah, exactly. He wants to kind of, talk about flexibility a little bit with regards to genes. More talking, years back, there was that whole human genome project, if you will, and they really thought they were going to find a gene for everything. And what they found out is that there wasn't a gene for everything, and that more genes reacted based on the environmental triggers that they were exposed to. And this guy does one of the best explanations I've ever heard of how to look at your genes, if you will, and how they might adapt. How to get genes to turn on in a way that you'd like them to turn on and give a response you'd like, and how to avoid some of those things that you don't you don't want them to do, like making cancers and these other types of things that seem to be prolific in the news. Angelina Jolie, these types of things. How can you maybe keep that gene from turning on without having to go do an abrupt surgery in its place?
So this is more of a, what would you say, like surroundings essentially that you would try to change around yourself to, or are these like activities you would do? Because I know in track and field we used to have a guy that would come in and he would almost like reset your neurosystem. Basically say like, it's like almost like a computer hard drive reset. Like, yeah, you got a lot of things going on. We're going to reset everything and kind of get you back to ground zero. But that was really mainly geared towards movement and activity. So you're talking about things that are geared towards your body's response to
the reality is that we've got all kinds of things that we've talked about on the show before. Toxicity, toxins that we're exposed to, whether it's in cleaners, whether it's in foods, whether it's in our water, air supply, these types of things. We're talking about foods that bring us good nutrients versus foods that bring us inflammation, movement patterns that may do the same, sleep issues, pharmaceuticals. There's a million different things that are influencing our genetic responses all the time. Dr. James Chestnut, very, very fascinating guy, and we'll have him on next week as well. A couple of great interviews here coming back to back. Hey, I want to say this. We got some new sponsors on the show, one of them being Gardens by Gabriel. We're going to try to get Gabe back in here as well. In Gardens by Gabriel, whether it's a custom design you want, installation, check these guys out at gardensbygabriel.com. When you talk about a knowledge base, there really isn't anybody with more knowledge than Gabe around here and a love for what he's doing. I was talking to him just this morning, and one of the things I've noticed around here, and you guys are from the Midwest, so it's a bit different, but this climate, you can grow all year round, right?
Except grass, yeah. Except grass.
It still seems as though there is a disconnect with growing things in the winter. Some of our greatest crops can come in the winter. Now is the time to begin thinking about your planting or starting to get things in the ground for that more late fall, winter season. Gabe's going to come in next week, give us a few tips on that. But have you sensed the same? I mean, everybody talks about planting in the spring, and they get this, beautiful summer squash and the tomatoes and, zucchinis and so forth. But where is the growth in the winter, and why are we, why are we avoiding keeping that garden going year round?
Gabriel will have to answer that for you. Just put water on it, and if it grows, it grows.
Well, I'm thinking you guys, you guys are from the Midwest. You're Midwesterners, certainly you appreciate
because
cold.
In the Midwest, as soon as it's done being cold, you plant to maximize your growing season through the summer, fall before winter comes again. That's why you plant in the spring.
Are you telling me, Paul, that you can't adapt to this wonderful climate?
I'm telling
you're
you,
stuck in your old ways.
I am telling you, I can run, I can jump, and I can throw, and I can tell you how to do that. As soon as you tell me, how do you grow this plant? I don't know. I'm striking out with my plants here. Some of them grow, most of them don't.
Again, you're listening to Living the Run here on ESPN 12A The Ticket. Find us on livingtherun.com or facebook.com/livingtherun. Well, I didn't do this, Melissa. I don't think you've seen it yet. I should show it to you. I was a little reluctant to put this online, but Paul sends me a little text message.
Don't put that picture online.
Beautiful picture of this strapping young child. Happens to be his son. The lollipop is as big as his head that he's chowing down on. And the Coke can in the left hand, I'm thinking, Paul Tarek, that's almost grounds for immediate firing from Living the Run. This is not what we're promoting here.
I was not a fan of the Coke can. The lollipop, you know what? He doesn't eat suckers all the time. He wanted it. He was happy. He takes 3 licks, sticks it to his forehead, and that's usually the end of the sucker. So I'm okay with that.
Melissa's about to see this for the first time. It's almost hard to look at, Paul. When you look at the statistics of type 2 diabetes running rampant, each and every week we address from as many different angles as we can how to move, how to eat more appropriately, how to manage inflammation through managing blood sugars.
I think we're out of the kid loves vegetables. He will eat broccoli all day long. And, he wanted a sucker. He got a sucker.
Does it look worse blown up, Melissa?
Yes, absolutely.
Worse. He enjoys it.
I gotta keep it small. Oh gosh. Well, we're gonna have a section on this show called the blood boiler. I look back, and one of my favorite people I ever met was a guy who said in his 70s that the thing he does every day is get his blood to boil. And it was a big deal for him. And we want to talk about that each and every week ourselves. And I think it should be brought to you this week by Hal Swayze and Team Swayze. When you talk about a guy that gets his blood to boil every day, this guy pushes it to the limit. Gets up early so that he can research what's going on in the real estate world, so he can exercise, so he can be attentive. No one is doing more deals in this area, and no one cares more about real estate than Hal Swayze. You can find him at teamswayze.com, 805-781-3750. Tell me what you did today, Olympian Paul Tarek, to get your blood to boil.
I failed miserably at my intended workout. It would have been 3 sets of 6 fitness runs. 30 to 40 seconds of good good pace, like non-conversation pace, kind of like a medium sprint run, followed by leg activities at one end and ab activities at the other end. And the intention was 3 sets of 6.
Why, Melissa, why does he keep saying the intention?
Well, because I'm telling you.
What was the intention when you had your son with a lollipop that's larger than his dome and an orange soda can in his left hand? What was the intention?
The lollipop. I'm not worried about the other one. The other one is, I'm not a fan of the other one. The lollipop I was all right with.
So you're telling our listeners what actually then transpired in that?
Two sets of 6.
2 sets, not bad.
2 sets of 6, and it was, it's a mental workout for me a lot, because it's like, God, I used to be way better at this. I used to be good at this, and now I'm not. So,
all right, not tough to top, Melissa. Tell us, blood boiler today.
I did some more X's on the turf fields.
Is Wednesday an X day?
Just during this portion of my training. Now I think I'm going to be moved to the hills next week, but.
Are you planning on racing any of those Wow Weekers up to the P?
Absolutely not.
What hill are you guys going to do?
I'm not sure. Last year, the first workout when all of the track team was back in town was a continuous hill workout at the P. I am hoping that I don't get to experience that, because
that was miserable.
It looked brutal.
It is miserable.
It looked absolutely terrible.
That's not only a blood boiler. That's a stomach boiler as well. That could initiate a little nausea.
She's interested. Wilson Hill right there. It's not quite the P, but it was a great hill for us. I fell asleep on the sidewalk a couple times over there.
Yeah, Wilson Hill's good. Fredericks is a fun one too. Fredericks is a nice street. You get that United Methodist Church right up there at the top. I don't know if it's a fun one, but that's another hill.
Fun. I wouldn't describe a hill as fun.
Yeah, a lot of people hit up Johnson for some repeats as well. A lot of opportunities out here. You get out Orchid or get out Tank Farm as well, going out to the winery. Definitely some opportunities. I like it out there because certainly the views are a bit better. Some beautiful views for sure.
Yeah.
So.
At this point, we're just looking for some soft surface hills. So if you have any ideas about that.
The dunes in Oceano.
The dunes in Oceano. That is a beauty.
Or Montana de Oro. They have some nice ones out there.
Montana de Oro as well. So many opportunities around here to live the run on the Central Coast. I had one of those days. It's I went back to my bread and butter when it is one of these days, and it's just 7 minutes of burpees. How many can I do?
Oh my goodness.
And it just I didn't have a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of resources today. 7 minutes, as many as I can do, and it definitely. The blood was boiling.
The CrossFit staple, man. That's a tough one.
It's a CrossFit staple, and we encourage people all the time, have that 7-minute workout, that 15, that 20, something that doesn't require equipment, something you could do anywhere. These are important deals because we shouldn't miss that daily. Something should be done daily, and our health will be better for it. We've been talking a lot of paleo stuff here lately too, and somebody said it today. I thought it was great. They just summed it all up. Eat more plants, eat less animals. And I thought, God, that should be a bumper sticker. Eat more plants, eat less animals. And what we see is that people that do that tend to reduce inflammation, and they tend to get the max out of their humanism, if you will. I saw later today multiple surgeries in her life, close to 7 or 8 surgeries, knees, hips, shoulders. She's changed the diet, and the one thing she's seen tremendously is that osteoarthritis that's come in some of those surgical joints is just not bugging her. The inflammation is down. She's eating more plants, eating less animals, and no better place on the face of this earth to do it than here on the Central Coast. We can grow everything and grow everything and anything. No excuse for not getting that rainbow every day in those vegetables.
Yeah, but we can also grow cows here, and they are tasty. Hey, dude, it is hard to. It would be hard for me to be a vegetarian knowing Oak Pit Barbecue on the Mesa exists because they make the greatest beef rib I've ever eaten.
That white bread will go good just with that sucker and that soda.
That's
Tremendous stuff from Paul Tarek as usual here on Living the Run. Hey, folks, stick with us. We got Brandon Brock, functional neurologist, talking concussions next. It's an interview you don't want to miss. Right here on Living the Run, ESPN 1280, The Ticket.
You're listening to Living the Run on ESPN Radio 1280, The Ticket.
Hey guys, Paul Tarek from Living the Run here. As a former Olympian, there is only one place myself and fellow athletes go when it comes to chiropractic care on the Central Coast. With 4 chiropractors in the clinic, Slow Wellness Center is the largest, most comprehensive group of docs in San Luis Obispo County. I began seeing Dr. Rex Stevens back in 2005 for spinal adjustments to help maximize my performance, minimize my injury, and allow me to compete at my best. When the difference between a win and a loss can be just a fraction of an inch, perfect alignment in all joints is essential. One of the great things about the team at Slow Wellness is no matter where I had an issue, whether it was my spine, my foot, knee, wrist, or shoulder, they were always able to help. This team, made up of Dr. Rex and Molly Stevens, Dr. Sachs, and Dr. Bandolo, is sure to help you reach your health and fitness goals too. If it's chiropractic care you need, go where I go, Slow Wellness Center. Check them out at slowwellness.com or call 543-8688.
Folks, when it comes to the health of my teeth, I will not compromise, and neither should you. It's time you go where my wife and I go see Dr. Ryan Ross. I get it. Not everyone loves a dentist, and heck, even a few of you out there are scared to death of these offices. Bad past experiences? Well, you ever had a bad haircut? How about a bad meal somewhere? You didn't stop getting your haircut, and you certainly didn't stop eating, so stop ignoring your teeth. Dr. Ross's gentle approach, calming demeanor, and office full of upbeat staff puts your dental fears to rest. Conveniently located in a great little house on Marsh Street downtown, Dr. Ross's office exudes the highest level of professionalism, mixed with an atmosphere much like your own home. Look, nobody's in a rush here. It's not a get 'em in, get 'em out atmosphere. Every time I'm in Dr. Ross's office, it's like I'm the only guy that matters. No distractions, just full focus on my oral health. If you're interested in the highest quality in dental care and want to walk out of the office every time with a smile, call Dr. Ryan Ross today, 541-5800.
Puma Aquatics team offers year-round swim programming for novice, recreational, and competitive swimmers. For 16 years, Puma has developed some of the fastest swimmers on the Central Coast, as well as the nation. Puma has 3 convenient locations to choose from, providing programming for all of San Luis Obispo County. Puma offers swim assessments for new swimmers on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the Slow Kennedy Club, Atascadero Kennedy Club, and Arroyo Grande High School. For more information about Puma Aquatics, check out pumaswim.org. Join the Puma Pride and challenge yourself to reach new levels in your swimming. Puma Aquatics, where pride, passion, and persistence pay off.
We're back with Living the Run.
And welcome back to Live and Run. Rex is over here sorting out some technical difficulties. It just, every time we get left alone, there's always some sort of technical snafu.
You know, sometimes I don't get this this whole bringing people in via the phone thing. I think we're struggling a bit here. Hold on one second. We could try Dr. Brandon Brock one more time here. Maybe the hat trick will work this time.
All right, so Melissa, you were just talking about up at Oregon. I want to hear the King of the Hill workout again. And just to give the listeners an idea, we talk about hill workouts. I think a lot of people think it's just like a big long, like Rex is talking about a scenic jog out in Edna Valley, maybe doing some wine tasting. And I think that they don't, people don't grasp, elite athletes, the kind of hill workouts that you have to do.
So luckily I wasn't a multi-event athlete and didn't have to do this workout, but I watched a lot of people do it. And the men's sprints and hurdlers would do this workout called King of the Hill. First, we'd start at Hayward Field. We'd all meet for practice and then jog a mile, mostly uphill, to Hendricks Park, where there is a 300-meter paved trail through this lovely wooded area. I can't really appreciate the beauty of it because
maybe like in the first one you can, but I like rep 4.
But these guys would run 10 to the top, so 10 300s uphill, somewhat controlled at the beginning, but basically the theory of the workout was every person that got last on each rep would get dropped into a loser group, and the rest of them would continue on.
The motivation not to be in the loser
Right,
group.
exactly. And then whoever was the last man standing first to the top on number 10 was deemed king of the hill.
Did he get like some sort of awesome trophy to hold for the week, or was it just the knowledge that he was king of the hill?
No, it was just the pride of being king of the hill. Usually they couldn't even really appreciate it. I remember
Till like the next day.
or ever maybe. I remember Ashton, I believe, got second in that workout last time I saw him run it, and he stayed at the top of the hill for a while. Everyone else kind of made their way down, but I don't even think he could walk for a little bit.
Just laid down. Well, I was gonna say it had to be terrible to go to school with Ashton and compete with him, because, one of the things that always drives me to to do better is the competition among among friends and among training partners. But there had to be some sort of like point where it was like, I'm just tired of losing at every single event.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just glad that I never had to be in direct competition with him. I know I wouldn't handle that well.
So, all right. So you said you didn't have to do the hill workout. Now, as a vaulter, what type of you talked about being in the fall season right now. So what's your goal? We talk a lot of times on here about people that get involved in a program and they kind of dive in head first, and they're good for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and then they just get burned out. How do you keep from getting burned out over the course of a whole season? Because you're going to compete hopefully into August or so, right? Mm-hmm. And so you're starting now and competing into August. How do you keep from getting burned out and injured in that time?
So basically right now, everything's more fitness oriented. So I'm not doing really any pole vaulting, which is sad, but again, it's one of the ways that you prevent injury. So no pole vaulting right now, and we do as much on soft surface as we can. I've had some issues with stress fractures in the past and things like that. So for me, it's really important that we make the workouts count without overdoing it. But I think I've been with my same coach this is the 6th year, and I think we've kind of got it figured out. We tweak a few things here and there, but
when will you move into? Because it's obviously you're a pole vaulter, you have to start jumping at some point. Mm-hmm. When will you move into actual jumping from full approach, not even short approach, but from full approach jumping? When do you move into that?
My guess is that I probably won't jump from my full approach until late November, early December.
At which point she'll be visiting Rex a little more,
right?
As his expertise will definitely come into play with back alignment and shoulder issues.
I tell you, the expertise on this radio stuff, I do not know why we're losing this guy. We continue to lose him on the this radio thing. I'm going to take a break. We're going to come back. I'm going to see if we can figure this thing out in the break. Get Dr. Brandon Brock here in just a second. This is not what we do, right? Where is Max Woodcock when we really need him? Stick with us, guys. We got Brandon Brock coming back after the break. We will get him, I assure you.
You're listening to Living the Ride on ESPN Radio 1280 The Ticket.
Hey guys, Paul Tarek from Living the Run here. As a former Olympian, there is only one place myself and fellow athletes go when it comes to chiropractic care on the Central Coast. With 4 chiropractors in the clinic, Slow Wellness Center is the largest, most comprehensive group of docs in San Luis Obispo County. I began seeing Dr. Rex Stevens back in 2005 for spinal adjustments to help maximize my performance, minimize my injury, and allow me to compete at my best. When the difference between a win and a loss can be just a fraction of an inch, perfect alignment in all joints is essential. One of the great things about the team at Slow Wellness is no matter where I had an issue, whether it was my spine, my foot, knee, wrist, or shoulder, they were always able to help. This team, made up of Dr. Rex and Molly Stevens, Dr. Sachs, and Dr. Bandolo, is sure to help you reach your health and fitness goals too. If it's chiropractic care you need, go where I go, Slow Wellness Center. Check them out at slowwellness.com or call 543-8688.
Folks, when it comes to the health of my teeth, I will not compromise, and neither should you. It's time you go where my wife and I go see Dr. Ryan Ross. I get it. Not everyone loves a dentist, and heck, even a few of you out there are scared to death of these offices. Bad past experiences? Well, you ever had a bad haircut? How about a bad meal somewhere? You didn't stop getting your haircut, and you certainly didn't stop eating, so stop ignoring your teeth. Dr. Ross's gentle approach, calming demeanor, and office full of upbeat staff puts your dental fears to rest. Conveniently located in a great little house on Marsh Street downtown, Dr. Ross's office exudes the highest level of professionalism, mixed with an atmosphere much like your own home. Look, nobody's in a rush here. It's not a get 'em in, get 'em out atmosphere. Every time I'm in Dr. Ross's office, it's like I'm the only guy that matters. No distractions, just full focus on my oral health. If you're interested in the highest quality in dental care and want to walk out of the office every time with a smile, call Dr. Ryan Ross today, 541-5800.
Puma Aquatics team offers year-round swim programming for novice, recreational, and competitive swimmers. For 16 years, Puma has developed some of the fastest swimmers on the Central Coast, as well as the nation. Puma has 3 convenient locations to choose from, providing programming for all of San Luis Obispo County. Puma offers swim assessments for new swimmers on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the SLO Kennedy Club, Atascadero Kennedy Club, and Arroyo Grande High School. For more information about Puma Aquatics, check out pumaswim.org. Join the Puma Pride and challenge yourself to reach new levels in your swimming. Puma Aquatics, where pride, passion, and persistence pay off.
We're back with Living the Run.
Hey, welcome back to Living the Run. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but I haven't learned everything without Max Woodcock in studio anymore.
We should have him on speed dial.
Hey, thanks for being patient. Functional neurologist Dr. Brandon Brock out of Dallas, Texas. Thanks for dealing with our technical difficulties.
Hey, no problem. How you guys doing tonight?
Fantastic tonight. Hey, let me get right at it. I want to ask you this right off the bat, Dr. Brock. It was in the news. NFL season began to get underway. Many players began to come out and say they would rather sustain a concussion than have a knee injury. Your take as a functional neurologist.
Those are pretty big words. Rather sustain a concussion than have a knee injury. I think that's probably because a lot of these guys can fly under the radar with a head injury, but when you have a knee injury and you can't run out on the field, it's much more difficult to play through it. That's alarming for me as somebody that looks at brains, because when you see these cumulative head injuries over time, people forget how to think and talk and walk and function. And when you're 50 years old and can't remember your name, it's a bad day, guys.
Definitely a bad day. It seems as though it's a bit short-sighted, especially in lieu of the whole thing that went down, the lawsuit and so forth, where you said exactly what you said. Does it seem as though these trends may be coming down the pipeline to those college and high school athletes, where now we're looking to potentially cover up that head injury, like you said, to be able to look to get that scholarship, look to get maybe that pro look down the road?
Yeah, well, you take football, for instance. It's whether it's football or soccer or anything where you're using your head, it's really easy to get your bell rung a little bit and then just kind of move on, so your mental tasking slows down a little bit. If you're an athlete or highly functional, you still look like you're a superstar because you're so good and gifted athletically. But that stuff accumulates over time, especially when you don't have the right amount of time to heal. So what we see is coaches have kind of brushed some things under the rug. Team doctors, team trainers, and certainly athletes. They don't want to lose their spot on the team. They don't want to be, put on second string or third string or get cut from the team altogether. Head injury is the biggest culprit. It's the biggest part of this whole game because, again, it's a lot easier to mask it. And some of the testing, just to be very honest with you, is just terrible. It's not good. It's very subjective. It doesn't give the whole story. And as a result of that whole combination of events, there's going to be a lot more come out about this.
Now, is it just that we're paying more attention to head injuries at the high school, at the collegiate level, at the NFL level, or is it that maybe because of supplements, because of the way people are training and people are 50 years ago, a 6'2" guy that was 200 pounds that could run, he was considered a heck of an athlete, where now it's like if a guy's 6'2", 200 pounds, he's just another guy out there on the field in the NFL. Is it, maybe the bigger, faster athletes are going to be causing more and more damage?
I think that's certainly a part of it, but I think it also has a lot to do with the fact that science is now having the ability to sort of look at older people, people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s, and say, there's a lot more degenerative neurological diseases all of them. Parkinson's disease, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, Alzheimer, dementia. And those statistics are going up so much that it's forcing people to kind of sit back and say, why? And so when you start looking at what some of these people did and you go back into their history, you realize this person was a football player. Or why does this person have a degenerative neurological disorder that typically happens in your 70s? Why are we seeing it in the 40s? And I think that science and data and doctors who are looking at it more carefully are starting to kind of put two and two together and coming up with the fact that, you know what, these people shouldn't be taking blows this hard repeatedly over and over. And yes, they are getting bigger, and they are getting stronger, and they are getting faster. And I think it's this giant collage of things that's really sort of coming to fruition in a lot of different arenas.
Hey, Dr. Brock, when we look at on a slightly lower scale, not the NHL injury, not the NFL injury, but the lower scale type things. I know there's talk about soccer balls striking a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old. Talk about the difference maybe between those smaller but repetitive type blows to the head versus the larger one-time type events.
Yeah, some people would argue that they may be more dangerous because you're accumulating that low-level trauma over and over and over, so you're not having that big event where everybody's really scared and the person has some clear dysfunction. A lot of times the people that get the big head injury, they get taken out of the game, and they're given the time to heal. But the other kid that takes like 5 or 6 little blows that never really heal and that add up over time, we're finding that those people can become much worse and have more problems. And listen, most of the patients in our practice, they're not professional people. We do see those people, but we have a lot of young kids that have head injuries and a whole load of other neurological things going on with them. And it's just as bad and debilitating for them. We're concerned about those people that don't get screened right,
Now, what do you tell a family like that? Because I think that would be, as a parent, that would be something that I'd be concerned about. What should I be looking for? Because your kid goes out, maybe he bumps his head or whatever, and it's not a big deal. You play through it, kind of thing. But what kind of things do you look for so you don't end up with those repetitive, continuous, head injuries?
We're developing testing, and we have testing now. It's really hard to fake, and it's not so subjective. So, if you got a 13-year-old kid that's a soccer player and, you ask them how they're doing, a lot of times they just kind of look at you and say, oh, I'm doing okay. We have cognitive testing, but we have other neurological testing now where we can really objectively look at things like your eye speed, your eye function, your eye accuracy. These are things you just can't fake. We also look at balance and the ability to stand up and move and adapt on posture studies. Again, it's very hard to fake those things. So what we're doing now is putting people through tests that really give us a clear sort of picture of their physiology without what they are actually saying to us, about how they feel. And we're finding people that can go back, and then we're finding people that may feel better, but neurologically they're just doing terrible, and they're not ready to go back yet.
Now, would you have to have a baseline for that? Somebody come in and see you before this happens, or is this something that you can determine possibly after the fact, just based on average data for somebody of that age and sex?
It's both. We'd love to have baselines. I mean, if I can have some testing on somebody before a season starts, it's always easy to be able to compare back to that. But if we don't have it, we can look at people and just say, this person is really suffering, like all of their data is really below average. And it's really good to have objective, tangible stuff. You show it to a parent and you go, listen, you guys and the coach or the trainers or whoever's involved in making the decisions, you need to sit down and look at this data and consider this before we go on, because your brain may not be, the kid's brain may not be healed yet. And if that's the situation, then if you have another head injury on top of that, you've still got inflammation, and it sets in play this physiological nightmare of reconcussing chemically, even though you may not have another head injury. And that's why we want people to have time to heal and get treated the right way.
Are you talking about, in that case, again, talking to Dr. Brandon Brock, functional neurologist out of Dallas, Texas, are you talking about when you are reconcussing without another head injury, are you referencing nutritional inflammatory agents? What are you referring to that might be able to be avoided and prevented?
Well, one of the things that happens is when you hit your head, there's obviously inflammation. I mean, it's trauma. It's just like anywhere else on your body. There has to be inflammation for there to be healing. The cells that create inflammation within your brain, they're sort of programmed to turn on, find damaged neurons, coat it with inflammatory chemicals, and then they get eaten up and it turns into, fibrotic tissue, or it turns into dead tissue, glial tissue, basically. These guys go in there and they scavenge throughout the system. And if you get a concussion, they'll turn on, then they turn off. If you get another concussion, they turn on and stay turned on a little bit longer, so you have more inflammation. Over a period of time, your brain can literally get to the point where these inflammatory cells, they just don't turn off. So now you can go through periods of sustained inflammation and have neurological damage, even though you're not getting reconcussed again. And this is where we start to see people that have a lot of complications, and it takes a long time to heal. I had a hockey player that came in the other day, a 16-year-old kid, really talented, had one concussion healed, had another concussion healed. He was getting better. He just leaned back in the den of his house and just barely hit his head on the table and relapsed in it. He's just been going through this terrible amount of symptomatology. He just didn't heal the right way, and he has that sustained inflammation. So to kind of get to your answer, yeah, we use all kinds of different nutritional agents to help reduce inflammation within the brain that won't turn off.
Yeah, but does it go the other way is what I was trying to get at as well, is are there things in the diet that then are creating inflammation rather than anti-inflammation, but creating inflammation through dietary means that can then recreate these same concussive-like symptoms?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you are the person that has a very inflammatory diet, and if you are the person that has a high histamine diet, and you get a head injury on top of having that diet, we know that you will probably have more complications than somebody who is not on a cleaner, healthier, non-inflammatory, lower histamine diet. In fact, one of the things we do with our patients is, one of the first things we do is say, hey, look, you need to go on a low, non-inflammatory diet, because we don't want anything to build up inflammation outside of your brain that then can go inside of your brain and create more damage on top of the concussion.
Now, sorry, I just kind of lost my question for a second there, because I just thought of what he said a second ago. Is there anything you can do to reverse the effects that, you said it coats that, and then it pretty much turns into dead tissue essentially, right? Is there anything,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't really reverse that effect. Once that tissue's gone, it's pretty much gone, right?
Well, the average human has about, anywhere from 80 to 100 billion neurons, and, you're going to lose on the average of 5 to 20 million a day at a certain age. When you have a head injury, that number just escalates and goes up. The thing to do is to allow the healing process to occur, stop the inflammation. If there's dead tissue, there's dead tissue, but activate the neurological pathways that are still there and make them stronger, and then do everything you can nutritionally or medicinally or dietarily to stop that process of killing more neurons than the average person would lose. And that's really the name of the game in concussion.
Dr. Brock, when would you allow your kids to head a soccer ball regularly out on the soccer field? Soccer's been going crazy now here, starting in the fall, AYSO. When would you start letting your kid head a soccer ball, and how often would you let them do it?
That's a good question. When I look at kids, the things I look at that worry me are, if the strength of their neck is not good and they get a whiplash injury, the chances of them having a concussion go up. The chances of them having neck injuries go up. I mean, the person has to be posturally sound and have a good, strong core and be coordinated and be able to head the ball without having a whipping motion, but to be able to keep their head neutral. As far as the number of headers a kid can take, I really don't know. It's a great question. What I would say is this. Kids need to be screened, even if they're in youth. Let's say they're 10, 12, 13 years old going into a soccer season. Coming from a practitioner point of view, I would just like to see them get screened, get some baseline tests. If they have any symptoms during the year, they get screened, they get tested again, and if they have a decrease in function, they're pulled out. Because ultimately their Pee-wee soccer career is not as important as their, college education down the road and having the ability to think.
No question about it. Hey, top 3 as we go. Top 3 anti-inflammatory changes people could make, either with supplements or with foods, that they could start today and get going for either themselves or one of their children.
Okay, so as far as dietary stuff is concerned, I would say this: trans fats. Everything's fried and cooked in the bad oils. We know that trans fats are highly inflammatory and can cause small vessel damage and promote a loss of blood volume to the brain. So that's one of the first things. The other thing is, I hate to be anti-dairy, but it's showing that a lot of the large molecular weight dairy proteins can be very pro-inflammatory to a lot of people. So dairy substitutions with things like coconut milk can be very good. Coconut milk has medium-chain fatty acids in it that are saturated, and they're actually anti-inflammatory and help repair damaged tissue. When you compare coconut milk to regular milk, it has the same amount of calcium, same amount of vitamin D, same amount of calories. It's just a different protein structure. So looking at food that's fried and taking that away, looking at dairy proteins and maybe doing a dairy substitute for a while. And then the other thing we find is if somebody does have a head injury, a little bit of caloric restriction is really good. Reducing carbohydrates is really good, and increasing protein is really good. When you make that combination, a higher protein, lower carbohydrate diet, especially after an acute injury like a head injury, it helps neurons clear out damaged intracellular organelles, the little things inside the cell that makes it work. It helps clean out the bad ones so new ones can grow. And then the other thing I would say is, I guess third or fourth, whatever number I'm on, just to watch out for the grains, because some of the grains can be inflammatory in a lot of patients. So if people have a question, they should just do like a rotation diet or a food diary and just find out if they're having headaches, if there's a food that flares them up. Or you can go to a doctor and get somebody to do some testing, some food allergy testing. There's a lot of different kinds. There's IgE, IgG, IgA. There's different immunoglobulins you can test, but find a good doctor that knows what he's talking about, and they can help you with that.
Good stuff as always, Dr. Brandon Brock. You informed us greatly. We're better because of it on the Central Coast. Thanks for clearing some of that stuff up, and hopefully people make these changes as they go forward. I love what you said. The Pee Wee soccer career is not nearly as important as one's life and the ability to think down the road.
It's not. Hey, guys, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Anytime.
Appreciate it very much. Good stuff from Dr. Brandon Brock, as always. We'll talk about wrapping this up as we come to the close. Next segment, so much meat in what he brings to us every time. Thankful to have that guy on. Stick with us. Tips and takeaways coming next.
You're listening to Living the Ride on ESPN Radio 1280 The Ticket.
Hey guys, Paul Tarek from Living the Run here. As a former Olympian, there is only one place myself and fellow athletes go when it comes to chiropractic care on the Central Coast. With 4 chiropractors in the clinic, Slow Wellness Center is the largest, most comprehensive group of docs in San Luis Obispo County. I began seeing Dr. Rex Stevens back in 2005 for spinal adjustments to help maximize my performance, minimize my injury, and allow me to compete at my best. When the difference between a win and a loss can be just a fraction of an inch, perfect alignment in all joints is essential. One of the great things about the team at Slow Wellness is no matter where I had an issue, whether it was my spine, my foot, knee, wrist, or shoulder, they were always able to help. This team, made up of Dr. Rex and Molly Stevens, Dr. Sachs, and Dr. Bandolo, is sure to help you reach your health and fitness goals too. If it's chiropractic care you need, go where I go, Slow Wellness Center. Check them out at slowwellness.com or call 543-8688.
Folks, when it comes to the health of my teeth, I will not compromise, and neither should you. It's time you go where my wife and I go. Go see Dr. Ryan Ross. I get it. Not everyone loves a dentist, and heck, even a few of you out there are scared to death of these offices. Bad past experiences? Well, you ever had a bad haircut? How about a bad meal somewhere? You didn't stop getting your haircut, and you certainly didn't stop eating, so stop ignoring your teeth. Dr. Ross's gentle approach, calming demeanor, and office full of upbeat staff put your dental fears to rest. Conveniently located in a great little house on Marsh Street downtown, Dr. Ross's office exudes the highest level of professionalism, mixed with an atmosphere much like your own home. Look, nobody's in a rush here. It's not a get 'em in, get 'em out atmosphere. Every time I'm in Dr. Ross's office, it's like I'm the only guy that matters. No distractions, just full focus on my oral health. If you're interested in the highest quality in dental care and want to walk out of the office every time with a smile, call Dr. Ryan Ross today, 541-5800.
Puma Aquatics team offers year-round swim programming for novice, recreational, and competitive swimmers. For 16 years, Puma has developed some of the fastest swimmers on the Central Coast, as well as the nation. Puma has 3 convenient locations to choose from, providing programming for all of San Luis Obispo County. Puma offers swim assessments for new swimmers on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the SLO Kennedy Club, Atascadero Kennedy Club, and Arroyo Grande High School. For more information about Puma Aquatics, check out pumaswim.org. Join the Puma Pride and challenge yourself to reach new levels in your swimming. Puma Aquatics, where pride, passion, and persistence pay off.
We're back with Living the Run.
Welcome back to Living the Run. Top off one of our latest sponsors. If you haven't gone to leftlanesports.com, do it now. I love their slogan: gear you need, prices you want, service you deserve. All the top name brands, guys, 60 to 80% off. You can get some phenomenal outdoor deals here. Check them out, leftlanesports.com. Hey, compelling interview. We've talked about some of this stuff before. We talk about inflammation. He referenced some of these things, but he kind of looked at it. We had this segment not long ago, Paul, where we talked about is sitting the new smoking. And, I don't think Melissa was here for that, but is sitting the new smoking. And it kind of went to the same thing that he was saying is that sometimes we're seeing even this possibility that the slow dysfunction over time is creating maybe more problems than even the acute injuries. He said, hey, you go in and you have a big concussion. A lot of times they'll pull those guys and let them heal appropriately. But other people are taking some of that repetitive pounding, but it's not coming in as severe or seemingly as acute, so they're actually not healing. So they create more of that fibrotic tissue up in the brain and probably more chronic stuff down the road, a lot like the sitters, right? The people sit down, they don't really notice stuff much, but then all of a sudden 20 years of it, and they're ending up with more thyroid issues, immune issues, digestive disorders, and the like going through. Good stuff from him. I haven't really heard it talked about in that manner.
Yeah, I think his big thing is going to be taking a proactive approach. It's the one thing that you can't see. You can't really say, like you talked about a knee before, and you can't fake a knee injury. You have a knee injury. You can fake it if you have a head injury. If you're high functioning, you can get by. You can answer their questions. You can look like you know what you're doing. Still be a little foggy, but hey, you know what? I'm playing through it. So I think you have to be proactive if you want to actually change anything.
I think that the hardest part with all of this is going to be to get the athletes to buy into everything. As an athlete, I wouldn't want to get taken out, and I know that. So if it was something that I felt like I could play through and I didn't really know all the facts behind it and how bad it could be in the future, I think that I would probably do the same thing and tell him I'm fine.
Tell him I'm fine. Walk it up. Well, part of where she's at, though, is as a vaulter, how many head injuries do you have? And it's like, the chance of you falling off the mat, it's just not, it doesn't happen every jump or every other jump. Where you look at football and soccer, and it's like in football, every single play, somebody is getting hit. Somebody's going to hit somebody on every single play. So, to them, it's a lot. It would be harder to get those people to buy in because who's to say, you're going to end up with that injury. As a vaulter, as a track guy, maybe maybe you don't, maybe it happens.
Yeah, but Melissa brings up a good point. I mean, she's talking more from a competitive athlete standpoint and saying, hey, I don't want to let my team down. I want to be in the game. And again, how many of these guys have been in these situations where they've taken some concussions? They've had their bell rattled, if you will, yet they're not showing any signs. So there's plenty of guys that are 50, 55, 60 that aren't showing the same signs. And so some of these players, I think, are thinking, hey, that could be me. I mean, I've only had a couple of these. I may not be the guy who can't remember his name, can't remember how to get home, or having any other chronic pain issues down the road. So, I agree with you on that. I really believe that is probably your biggest sticking point on this whole thing is being convinced that the trauma that just took place is going to debilitate you in some way.
Well, I mean, we talk about diet and exercise too, and then how many people go, I'm leading a good life. My life's fine. I don't need to quit smoking. How many people don't quit smoking when it's been proven, it's people, and not even do they not quit, they start. Smoking has been proven to be as unhealthy and detrimental as this, but still people do it.
Yeah, well, we're running into a problem, though, Paul, is that The analysis is the issue, and he kind of referenced it, and he used the word terrible. That the analysis on most athletic facilities is terrible, and the stuff that he was talking about doing really involves objective testing, where they're measuring things like he said, eye movements. They got goggles on you, they got you going in different directions, things that simply cannot be faked, and things that are much more subtle that aren't being done out on the field. The cognitive testing is better that they've got now, but the reality is that the testing still isn't great on this stuff, and we've got a ways to go, and we need to keep pushing and being aware, because we don't want a society that's struggling miserably with a low quality of life on something that could have been prevented.
I remember my old football coach. You'd get your bell rung, he'd come off to the side, and he'd hold his hand up in front of your face, move it left and right, hold up 2 fingers or 3 fingers, and if you got close on the number of fingers, you're good enough. You're good. You go back in. You're fine.
Well, that explains everything that goes on this show when you tend to be here, Paul. What is this, 3 weeks in a row on Living the Run?
I know.
Unbelievable. Don't forget.
I better look at my schedule. I might have to be someplace else that I wasn't aware of.
Oh, gosh. Join us next week again, Dr. James Chestnut, doctor out of Canada. We're going to talk genes, and this is good stuff. And it's going to go in again to what some of Dr. Brock was saying. What happens when grains come in on some people, especially genetically modified grains? What happens when people eat too many carbohydrates? He makes some great points on how to reduce some of those inflammatory things, simple things that we all can do. Tips and takeaways from tonight's show, Paul Tarek.
Oh, tips and takeaways, hands down. Your kid's peewee soccer career, not as important as his education. I'm serious.
No.
How many parents get in fights over these things? It's soccer. It's football. It's a sport.
No question.
It's not that important.
Melissa Gergel, tips and takeaways.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Oh, we got to put her on the spot. This is only week 2 for Melissa. It's
warn her ahead of time.
Yeah, we got to warn her. She didn't know that last week this was going to be one of those every week things. We talk tips and takeaways. What can we walk away from tonight's show? We've got to be able to walk away from something.
I thought that the most interesting piece of information that I hadn't heard previously was about the nutritional impact on the effects of concussion and your recovery process and all of that. So
yeah, no question. I mean, I think people are very unaware of that re-inflammatory possibility, and the probability goes up dramatically the more times that you've had some of these issues. I'm kind of going to go along your lines, Paul. The idea is that when we think about human potential and we think about humanism at its highest level, we really have to think prevention. And we have to be a little bit more careful about the way we take on some of these things. Get away a little bit from the no pain, no gain theory. Get away from that kind of warrior mentality maybe a little bit, that I'm bigger than I think I might be. And look to use some preventative things and say, hey, my life down the road and those I associate with will be better as a result. So our thanks to Dr. Brandon Brock. As always, a wonderful, wonderful guest. My thanks to Olympian Paul Tarek, Melissa Gergel. Fantastic stuff. I'm Rex Stevens here on Living the Run. We come each week. Remember, the CJ Silas Show next. Folks, live healthy, live bold. Come, live the run.